Let me tell you something embarrassing. Last month, I opened Netflix with genuine intention to watch something new. I scrolled past critically acclaimed series, award-winning films, documentaries everyone was talking about. And you know what I ended up watching? The Office. For the 14th time. The entire series. Again. And here's the thing. I didn't feel bored. I felt relieved. Like coming home after being lost for too long. My friends think I'm stuck. My algorithm has given up on me. But sitting there, watching Jim look at the camera for the 100th time, I realized something. I'm not alone in this. Millions of people are doing the exact same thing right now. Netflix has 10,000 options, new movies dropping weekly, trending series everywhere. And yet, we're all rewatching The Office, Friends, Harry Potter, Parks and Rec, the same content we've seen 20 times. People ask, why not watch something new? But I think the better question is, why do some people constantly chase novelty, while others find profound comfort in the familiar? Is it laziness, nostalgia, or is there something deeper happening in our psychology that we're not talking about? Because here's what I've discovered after diving into the research and honestly examining my own behavior. Rewatching isn't about being stuck. It's not about lacking curiosity or avoiding growth. It's about something far more interesting. It's about what your brain needs, what your nervous system is seeking, and what your past is quietly asking for. And understanding this might completely change how you see yourself and your viewing habits. So let me break this down, because what we're about to explore goes way deeper than just TV shows. We live in a culture absolutely obsessed with the new. New content, new experiences, new everything. The algorithm is designed to push you forward, always suggesting the next thing, the trending thing, the thing everyone's talking about. There's this unspoken pressure that if you're not consuming new content, you're somehow falling behind, missing out, becoming culturally irrelevant. But here's what nobody talks about. That pressure is exhausting, and for some people, their brain has quietly opted out of that race entirely. They've found their comfort shows, their safety movies, their emotional anchors, and they're not letting go. Before we judge them, before we judge us, let's understand what's actually happening in the mind of a rewatcher. I want to introduce you to 4 distinct types of rewatchers, and as I describe each one, I want you to notice which one resonates with you, because chances are you're going to see yourself in at least one of these, maybe all of them. First, there's the comfort seeker. This person's life often feels unpredictable in ways they can't control. Maybe their job is high stress with constant deadlines and office politics they can't navigate. Maybe their relationships are complicated, family dynamics that drain them, friendships that feel one-sided, romantic situations that keep them up at night. Maybe the world itself just feels too chaotic right now. Too much news, too much change, too much uncertainty. Their nervous system is constantly on alert, waiting for the next thing to go wrong. And in that state, their brain starts desperately searching for something stable, something predictable, something safe. That's where rewatching comes in. Psychologists call this the predictability bias. When life feels chaotic, the brain actively seeks environments it can control. And a show you've already seen, that's complete control. You know how the episode ends, you know the character survives, you know exactly when the joke is coming, and you can smile before it even lands. That certainty feels like a warm blanket in a cold, unpredictable world. But here's what makes this really interesting. It's not actually about the story anymore. The comfort seeker isn't rewatching because they forgot what happens. They're rewatching because of how it makes them feel. There's a concept in psychology called emotional regulation through predictable stimuli. Essentially, your brain learns that certain content produces certain feelings. And when you're drowning in anxiety or stress or just general life overwhelm, your brain remembers, that show makes me feel safe. That movie calms me down. Those characters feel like friends who won't let me down. So hitting play on The Office for the 12th time isn't about the plot. It's about recreating a feeling of safety that's missing everywhere else in their life. For them, that familiar theme song is like coming home after a long day. Everything is where it should be. Nothing unexpected can hurt them here. And I need to say this because it's important. There's nothing wrong with seeking comfort. In a world that demands constant resilience, constant adaptation, constant strength, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you need something that just feels easy. Something that doesn't require you to be on guard. The comfort seeker isn't weak. They're wise enough to know what their nervous system needs to survive. Now let's talk about the second type, the cognitive recharger. These people are mentally exhausted in a very specific way. Their jobs demand constant decision-making, problem-solving, creative thinking, strategic planning. Teachers grading papers and managing 30 different personalities. Engineers debugging code for 8 hours straight. Parents making 1,000 tiny decisions every single day about their kids' lives. Managers juggling team dynamics and impossible deadlines. By the end of the day, their brain isn't just tired, it's completely depleted. Every ounce of cognitive energy has been spent. And here's the thing about watching something new. It requires effort, real effort. You have to learn new characters and remember their names and relationships. You have to follow new plot threads and keep track of timelines. You have to pay attention to dialogue because you might miss something important. Your brain has to work, it has to engage, and when you're already running on empty, that's not entertainment, that's more work. But rewatching? That's different. That's autopilot. Your brain doesn't have to process new information. It doesn't have to retain anything. It can just exist in that familiar space without any demands. Psychologists call this cognitive offloading. Your brain is like a battery that's been drained to 5%. And rewatching is how you recharge without spending any of that remaining 5%. It's entertainment that doesn't require engagement. It's company that doesn't require conversation. You can have it playing in the background while you fold laundry or scroll your phone, and you're not missing anything because you already know everything. The cognitive recharger doesn't need stimulation. They need rest. And in our hyper-productive culture that glorifies constant mental engagement, choosing content that lets your brain completely relax is actually revolutionary. There's research on this too. Studies on decision fatigue show that after making too many decisions, the brain starts to deteriorate in its ability to make good choices. It gets overwhelmed and shuts down. This is why after a long day of work, you can't even decide what to eat for dinner. Your decision-making capacity is gone. And choosing what to watch? That's a decision. Committing to something new when you don't know if you'll like it? That's a risk. But hitting play on Friends for the 9th time? That's guaranteed. Zero risk, zero cognitive load, pure mental rest. The cognitive recharger has figured out that their peace of mind is more valuable than appearing culturally current. Then there's the third type, and this one hits different, the nostalgia anchor. For this person, rewatching isn't really about the show itself at all. It's about the memories attached to it. Maybe they watched The Office with their college roommate during the best years of their life when everything felt possible and nothing hurt yet. Maybe they discovered Harry Potter with their little sister who doesn't talk to them anymore. Maybe Friends was what they watched with their ex-partner during lazy Sunday mornings that felt like forever. The show itself is secondary. What matters is the time machine it provides. Psychologists call this emotional time travel, and it's incredibly powerful. Every time they hit play, they're not just watching characters on screen. They're visiting a version of themselves that doesn't exist anymore. A younger self, a happier self, a self that still had that person in their life. And here's what makes this so bittersweet. While everything in their life has changed, jobs, cities, relationships, even who they are as a person, the show hasn't changed at all. It's frozen in time, exactly as it was, waiting for them. Michael Scott is still making awkward jokes. Monica's still cleaning. Harry is still discovering magic for the first time. And for 22 minutes or 2 hours, they get to feel what it felt like to be that person again. The person who watched this before life got complicated, before people left, before things fell apart. This is why people cry during shows they've seen 10 times. It's not the scene that's making them emotional. It's the memory, the ghost of who they were sitting next to them on that couch, watching with them, laughing with them. The nostalgia anchor is engaging in a very specific kind of grief work, even if they don't realize it. They're mourning something. Maybe it's a relationship that ended. Maybe it's a time in their life they can never get back. Maybe it's just their own innocence before the world showed them how hard things can be. And the show becomes a way to keep that version of themselves alive, because giving up the show would feel like giving up on that memory, that person, that time. So they keep returning. Not because they forgot what happens, but because they don't want to forget how it felt. And honestly, there's something beautiful in that, in refusing to let go of the moments that made you who you are. But there's also something important to recognize here. Nostalgia is healthy in doses, but you can't live in the past. The nostalgia anchor has to be careful not to use these shows as a way to avoid their present life. If you're constantly returning to who you were, you're not fully showing up for who you are. And sometimes the bravest thing isn't rewatching, it's letting go. Now the fourth type is completely different, the detail hunter. These people aren't rewatching because they're stuck or tired or sad. They're rewatching because they're curious. They genuinely believe that every show has layers they missed the first time around. Background jokes, subtle foreshadowing, character details that only make sense after you know how the story ends, visual Easter eggs, continuity nods, acting choices that add depth. They're convinced that watching something once isn't enough to truly understand it. The story isn't complete until they've caught everything. Psychologists link this to high openness and analytical thinking. The detail hunter's brain loves puzzles, patterns, connections. They're the kind of people who read fan theories on Reddit at 2 in the morning, who pause scenes to examine background details, who create elaborate timelines and character analyses. For them, rewatching isn't repetition. It's exploration. It's peeling back layers to find what's hidden underneath. And every time they notice something new, a subtle facial expression, a line of dialogue that was actually foreshadowing, a prop that appears in multiple episodes, it's like watching it for the first time all over again. That little dopamine hit of discovery, that satisfaction of solving a puzzle nobody explicitly told them existed. The detail hunter sees shows not as stories but as worlds. Complex, layered worlds that deserve to be studied. And honestly, they're not wrong. The best shows do have that depth. Breaking Bad has details that span 5 seasons. The Office has running gags that take years to pay off. Harry Potter has setup and payoff across 7 books and 8 films. These aren't just stories you watch, they're experiences you inhabit. And the detail hunter wants to live in every corner of that world, see it from every angle, understand it completely. They're not stuck in the past or avoiding the present. They're just deeply, beautifully curious about the thing that captured their attention. So, what do all 4 types have in common? They're not avoiding growth. They're not stuck in some kind of arrested development. They're choosing what their mind actually needs, even if the world doesn't understand it. The comfort seeker is protecting their peace in a chaotic world. The cognitive recharger is preserving their mental energy in a culture that demands too much. The nostalgia anchor is honoring their story and the people who shaped them. The detail hunter is deepening their experience instead of rushing to the next thing. None of them are wrong. They're just wired differently, and in a culture absolutely obsessed with novelty, with the new, with the next, they've learned something that most people haven't. Sometimes the best thing isn't new, it's familiar. Sometimes growth isn't about moving forward. It's about knowing yourself well enough to recognize what you need. But I'd be lying if I didn't address the elephant in the room, because there is a dark side to rewatching that we need to talk about. There's a difference between choosing comfort and hiding from life, between preserving energy and avoiding challenge, between honoring your past and refusing to live in your present. And that line can get blurry really fast. If you're rewatching because you're genuinely afraid of new experiences, that's worth examining. If you're using familiar shows to avoid dealing with real problems in your life, that's avoidance, not comfort. If you've built such a rigid comfort zone that anything outside of it feels threatening, you might not be protecting yourself. You might be limiting yourself. Here's how you know if your rewatching has crossed into unhealthy territory. Are you declining real-life opportunities because you'd rather watch your comfort show? Are you using it to numb feelings you should probably be processing? Are you so afraid of disappointment that you won't even try something new? Do you feel anxious or irritated when someone suggests watching something different? If the answer to any of these is yes, your rewatching might not be serving you anymore. It might be keeping you stuck. And that's the paradox of comfort. It feels safe, but too much safety can become a prison. Real growth requires discomfort sometimes. New experiences require risk. And if you're never willing to take that risk, you're not protecting your peace. You're limiting your life. Balance is everything. Rewatching your comfort shows is healthy and valid, but so is challenging yourself to try something new. So is being open to the possibility that you might discover something that becomes your new favorite. So is recognizing when you're using nostalgia as a shield against the present. The healthiest approach? Honor what you need in the moment. Some nights you need The Office. Some nights you need to try that new show everyone's talking about. The key is being honest with yourself about why you're making that choice. Here's something else worth considering. What you rewatch actually reveals a lot about who you are and what you need. Think about it. The person who rewatches The Office is seeking something different than the person who rewatches Breaking Bad. Office rewatchers often crave low-stakes comedy and found family dynamics. They want to feel like they're part of a group, even if it's fictional. Breaking Bad rewatchers are drawn to complexity, moral ambiguity, and intense storytelling. They want their brain engaged, not rested. Friends rewatchers are often nostalgia anchors returning to a simpler time, a specific cultural moment they're not ready to let go of. Harry Potter rewatchers are usually detail hunters, or people who found deep meaning in the hero's journey and want to live in that magical escape again. Your comfort show is like a mirror. It reflects what you're seeking, what you're missing, or what you're trying to reclaim. And there's an entire community aspect to this too. One of the reasons people love rewatching popular shows is because millions of others are doing the same thing. You can quote The Office with strangers and instantly connect. You can reference Friends and everyone knows what you're talking about. There's something deeply human about shared cultural touchstones. We're not just rewatching for ourselves. We're rewatching to maintain connection with a collective memory, a shared language of references and jokes that bind us together. So here's where we land. Which type are you? Maybe you're the comfort seeker who needs predictability when life feels out of control. Maybe you're the cognitive recharger who's just too mentally exhausted for anything that requires effort. Maybe you're the nostalgia anchor, holding on to memories that matter too much to release. Maybe you're the detail hunter who refuses to move on until you've understood every layer. Or maybe you're all of them at different times, depending on what you need. The point isn't to stop rewatching. The point is to understand why you're doing it, to recognize what your brain is asking for, to be honest about whether it's serving you or limiting you. Because self-awareness is everything. Knowing that you rewatch The Office because it makes you feel safe, that's powerful. Knowing that you return to Harry Potter because you're grieving something you lost, that's healing, as long as you're also moving forward in your real life. Knowing that you can't commit to anything new because you're afraid of disappointment, that's information you can work with. And maybe, just maybe, the rewatchers aren't stuck at all. Maybe they've just figured out something the rest of us are too busy chasing novelty to understand. That sometimes the most meaningful experiences aren't new. They're the ones we choose to return to again and again, because they matter, because they hold something we need. Because in a world that's constantly changing, there's profound peace in something that stays the same. I want to hear from you now. Which type of rewatcher are you? Drop a comment and tell me, are you the comfort seeker, the cognitive recharger, the nostalgia anchor, or the detail hunter? And what's your go-to show that you keep coming back to? Is it The Office, Friends, Parks and Rec? Something completely different? Tell me what it is and why it matters to you. Because I guarantee you, there are thousands of people reading these comments who are going to see themselves in your answer and feel less alone in their rewatching habits. And if this video made you think about your viewing habits differently, if it gave you permission to stop feeling guilty about rewatching the same content, if it helped you understand yourself a little better, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. I make videos every week exploring the psychology behind everyday behaviors, why we do, what it reveals about us, and how understanding ourselves better can change how we live. This is a community of people who are curious about their own minds, who want to understand the patterns they're stuck in, and who believe that self-awareness is the first step to living more intentionally. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. That friend who's on their 10th rewatch of Friends and feels embarrassed about it. That partner who can't stop watching the same 3 movies. That family member who everyone teases for never watching anything new. Send it to them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know there's actual psychology behind what they're doing. And let them know that in a world obsessed with the new, choosing what's familiar isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Before I go, I want to leave you with this. Your viewing habits don't define your worth. Watching something new doesn't make you more interesting or evolved. Rewatching something familiar doesn't make you boring or stuck. What matters is that you're making choices that serve your mental health, honor your needs, and help you navigate this overwhelming world with a little more peace. So the next time someone judges you for watching The Office again, you can smile and say, I'm a cognitive recharger protecting my mental energy, or I'm a nostalgia anchor honoring my story, or simply, because it makes me happy, and that's enough. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time and attention. I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you next week with another deep dive into why we are the way we are. Until then, watch whatever brings you joy, whether it's new or old. Take care of your mind, and remember, you're not stuck. You're just human, and that's exactly what you're supposed to be.